The winner of Survivor, Edge of Extinction, Chris.
Okay, well my model was never predicting that one now, was it? What I love about Survivor is how human it is. There are real people making real connections. Real feelings get really hurt. And eventually, the jury needs to decide who deserves the $1 million. It's beautiful, isn't it? However, I'm a PhD student studying computer science, and I talk about Survivor weekly on the internet through the medium of various PNGs. Do I strike you as the type who knows anything about genuine human connections? So let's take all that emotional nonsense out of it. Let's bring Survivor to its knees via an AI overlord. Let's see if I can build a model that predicts Survivor. Now there are two ways we can go about doing this. We can look at Survivor as a TV show, or we can look at Survivor as a game. There's a whole fan base dedicated to looking at Survivor as a TV show. It's called Edgic. While making an AI to simulate Edgic is probably the more fruitful endeavour, Edgic is all about predicting trends after all. I think it will be more interesting to see if we can distill the players' actions into this AI model. The stuff the players actually control. None of this confessional count and sentiment analysis stuff. Although if anyone has good Survivor transcripts, let me know, I'd love to feed them to an AI. This way, if you ever end up on Survivor, you'll have an idea of whether or not you're doing what the algorithm demands. Much like hitting like, comment and subscribe lets me know if I'm doing what the algorithm demands. There are so many things we could predict. Who will be pre-merge or post-merge? Jury or not jury? Returnee or forgotten forever? And all of these are interesting to me. To a disturbing degree, I've been told. But with the finale happening tomorrow, let's see if we can build a model to predict the winner of Survivor 46, and hopefully future seasons as well. Now let's gather some training and testing data. Say it with me if you know the words. Shout out Survive R, linked in the description. I have a feeling you didn't say it with me, but we'll get him next time. Using Survive R, I got every contestant that placed 5th or better in a season. Next I want to get some data points about these contestants that are representative of their Survivor game. I wanted to choose data points that served as a proxy for physical game, strategic game and social game. If it's good enough for Jeff to wank on about at Final Tribal Council, it's good enough for me. First up, representing physical game, we have immunity win percentage. This is split into pre-merge, post-merge and total. The reason I've gone with percentages is that Survivor can have a differing number of rounds depending on how many castaways there are and how many pre-merge boots there are. I'm hoping my reason for using this data as a proxy for physical game is understandable. Fun fact, Ozzy, Brad and Colby all won 5 individual immunities and got 2nd place. There may be some correlation here. Next is our proxy for strategic game, which is all about voting. Specifically the percentage of votes you've cast that cause someone to go home. Once again split into pre-merge, post-merge and total percentage. People like to claim that Survivor is a strategy game, and a big part of that strategy is correctly voting people off. Surely that makes it an important part of Survivor, right? Surely you can't completely fail to vote off your target day in and day out and still win the $1 million. That'd be ridiculous.
But I don't know about that.
Last up, to represent social game, we have the number of votes received. Again split into pre-merge, post-merge and overall. I'm not entirely confident that pre-merge vote receives are important, but worth adding anyway. I have a hunch that tells me people voting for you is a bad thing. It's probably an indicator of poor social game. Even if you're not going home, if your name's been written down a bunch of times by the final 5, I don't think things are looking too hot for your win equity. So this is our data, with over 200 different castaways. Now we need to figure out what we want our prediction column to look like. There are 2 options we'll explore. There's the binary classifier, where people are classified as either winners or losers, and there's the ranked classification, where people are classified as either 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. We'll do both for now, and go with the more promising one as we explore some models. But first, let's explore the data a bit. This is what we call a correlation matrix. It tells you how correlated different aspects of data are. For example, winning immunity during the tribal phase has a negative correlation with receiving votes in the tribal phase. Win more immunities, receive fewer votes. What a concept! We've also got these histograms showing the distribution of each data point, Over 125 people who made it to the final 5 received almost no votes at pre-merged tribal councils. A lot of them received no votes before the final 5 either. There are a lot of interesting trends here, but what model can best describe it and predict it? Let's start with one of the simplest ones. We'll use a logistic regression on our binary classification. The way a logistic regression works is it looks at the data points and calculates a weighted sum of the inputs before squashing it back down to try and classify the data. I'm not going to get too deep into the math here, this is a survivor channel, not an AI channel, and my PhD isn't even in AI. So let's split our data into testing and training and run our model before I get revealed to be a massive fraud. Oh my god. It got 80% accuracy. Holy smokes, we've cracked the case. This is amazing. Let's look at the predictions. Oh. It just predicted everyone will lose. And because 4 final 5ers are in fact losers of the season, that gives the model 80% accuracy. Hey, remember how I said we weren't going to get too much into the math? Let's quickly talk about why accuracy is a terrible way to evaluate a model. Found an event that happens a lot, telling you it'll always happen will make me very accurate. Like saying that winning final 4 fire making means you'll win the game. However, sometimes this isn't true, and it's called a false positive. Like if I predicted Heidi would win Survivor 44 because she won final 4 fire making. There's also false negatives, like if I predicted Tommy wouldn't win Island of the Idols because he didn't win fire making. These classifications are taken into account by metrics called precision and recall. Precision is the proportion of positive classifications that were actually correct, so it's brought down by false positives. Recall is the proportion of positive outcomes that were identified correctly, so it's brought down by false negatives. These can be combined to form an F1 score which we'll be trying to maximize today. Either way, our binary classification model is bad and it should feel bad. In fact, all classification models I tried are bad on binary data. They just love predicting everyone to be a loser. It is partially my fault I gave the model an unbalanced dataset. I could probably fix it by rebalancing the data, but then it's not that useful for predicting how the final 5 will go, and I really want to see how that goes. So let's get rid of our binary classifier, let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this. The rankings. Let's find a model that can accurately predict whether or not somebody will get 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or be the sole survivor. Starting with our simple logistic regression, we're already doing better than chance. For those of you wondering why our logistic regression still works even though we have more than 2 options for it to map the equation to, it's because our data is ordinal. Getting a 5 is worse than getting a 4 is worse than getting a 3. Our logistic regression has a 27% accuracy, which is better than random, as well as a precision of 27%, recall of 26%, and F1 of 0.25. It's a start, but I think we can do better. This is one of the most simple machine learning techniques we have. I highly doubt we'll ever return here again, it's more of a fun place to start out. Survivor's simply far too complex of a game for a technique this simple. What about a decision tree? These work by trying to make different decisions at different points in the dataset. For example, at one level it might say discard everyone with more than 3 votes against them. And then at the next level it might say discard everyone who didn't vote correctly at least 50% of the time in the pre-merge. Running our data through a decision tree classifier gives us 29% accuracy, we're getting there. How about random forest? This is like a decision tree, but more. It takes the output of multiple decision trees and takes the most common prediction from those to make its own classification. If one decision tree is an improvement, surely having a bunch of decision trees will make an even bigger improvement. It's worse! In fact, we're back down to the 27% accuracy we had using logistic regression, with a slightly worse F1 score of 0.24. For some reason, the final 5 of Survivor really doesn't work with random forest classifiers. Let's try something else. Support vector classifier. This guy tries to find the hyperplane that best separates our data into discrete points. Well, with a name like hyperplane, surely it has to have good results, right? Wrong. The most mathematically complex sounding model so far? It has an accuracy of 0.2. That's literally just the result of randomly guessing each placement. Put the eye patch on my other eye and tell me to point and I'll get a 20% accuracy as well. Am I a hyperplane? For reference, a naive Bayes classifier, which assumes each data point is independent, the most simple technique we have, gets an accuracy of 0.24. Even it does a better job than Mr. Hyperplane over here. Get out of here, SVC. Actually, get back here, SVC. I'm not done with you yet. I'll quickly talk about the fact that we can do two things to our data. We can pre-process it and we can scale it. You don't need to worry about the math behind it, mainly because I don't fully understand how it works myself, but sklearn behind the scenes makes the data more palatable to our models. If we scale and pre-process our data for SVC, it actually gets an accuracy of 31%. Maybe you aren't so bad after all, Mr. Hyperplane. Maybe I can even one day call you a friend. Just kidding. Friendship with SVC is over. Now KNN is my best friend. Wanna know a cool thing about data? You can represent it in space. Each data point our model classifies has 9 parameters. These parameters can be converted into vectors, so we can project them into space. Because we have 9 parameters, that means 9 dimensions of space, but we can collapse that down to 3D and it looks like this. Whoa, so pretty. Who the heck is that dot over there? Leave your guesses in the comments below. KNN takes any one data point, puts it on that graph and looks around for a few friends. He finds his K nearest neighbors, oh hey, that's what KNN stands for, and makes his decision based on that. Interestingly, scaling our data makes our KNN worse, but pre-processing makes it better. In fact, we're now up to 36% accuracy, 35% precision, 37% recall, and a 0.5 as our F1 score. Things are looking good. I think we've got our model. What's that? Oh god, don't tell me. No. No, stay away! I'm not going into this too much because I damn near lost my mind here, but each model has a ton of super small things you can tweak. Batch size, loss function, optimizer. People do PhDs in hyperparameter tuning and I am so thankful I am not one of them. But it turns out, with a little bit of love and attention, old mate logistic regression can become the best of us. With some hyperparameter tuning, also known as setting C to 2, which means the model is slightly less strict during the training phase, we have achieved an accuracy of 38%. Our recall is 39%, our precision is 41%, and our F1 score is 0.39. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so tired. But we've done it. Let's look at some of the test data to see what our model predicted on seasons of Survivor that already happened. It predicted Chelsea would get 3rd in one world, very apt there. It predicted Dean would get 2nd. It predicted Sugar would get 3rd. It predicted Donathan would get 5th. It predicted Fabio would win.
Hermit crab on my foot.
It even predicted Troyzan coming 3rd on Game Changers, which is wild because I didn't even know Troyzan was on Game Changers. But hold on to your alligators, because this model accurately predicted that Mike Gabler would be the winner of Survivor 43. Not only that, but it also predicted that Cassidy would come 2nd. That's insane. People online couldn't predict that. People online were furious about that one for a while. Some still are. It's not all roses though, 40% accuracy and all. Heather winning Survivor 41, anybody? Ricard coming 2nd to Heather in Survivor 41, holy shit, I would pay good money to see that happen. Dominic winning Survivor Ghost Island, you know what, I'm not holding that against my model, he's doing his best, it was a close vote, okay? Looking at the confusion matrix, it seems 1st and 3rd place are often quite similar in features, meaning the model gets it mixed up a few times. This makes sense to me. Think about Yul versus Becky. Statistically similar.
Alright, stop right where you're at. We're gonna go to matches.
The model also got 4th and 5th mixed up quite a few times, so maybe a ternary ranking would have been better suited for this. And there's something about coming 2nd that makes the model think you might just come 5th instead. If you're a big data nerd, this graph tells you how important each feature was when predicting a label. Voting correctly was a great indicator of coming 1st, and that line down means voting incorrectly was a great indicator in coming 5th. Winning lots of individual immunities or tribal immunities made the model predict you as first or second, but winning lots of both made the model think you'll come fifth. Now that we have our model, let's see what it predicts for Survivor 46. It predicted that 3 people will win and 2 people will come third. That's not how Survivor works. Hang on a second. There's probably a way I can force the model to assign each person a unique label, but instead I'm going to simply take the highest percentage in each category and give the person that ranking. Please note these numbers won't add to 100 across placements, but they will across castaways. I'll show that in a table at the end. Starting with first place, the model thinks Ben has a 9% chance of winning the season. He's not getting that. Liz, on the other hand, she has a 13% chance of getting first apparently. But the big 3, Mermaid Dragon Kenzie has a 30% chance of coming in first according to our model. She's in just behind Charlie, who apparently has a 33% chance of taking home the crown. That just leaves Maria, with a 37% chance of winning the season and is our model's predicted winner. I would probably have more faith in this if I hadn't seen last week's episode.
But now I'm removing my number 1 and trusting in my number 2.
Q, the tribe has spoken.
But who's our runner-up? Well, removing Maria from contention, we have Liz with a 12% chance of being runner-up and a 100% chance of being sponsored by Applebee's by the time the season ends. Next up we have Ben with a 20% chance of being runner-up, Kenzie sits at 22% chance of runner-up, and Swifty Charlie has a 30% chance of being the runner-up of our season, so we'll put him in that spot.
Taylor Swift!
But who's getting 0 jury votes? It's not Kenzie. She only has a 27% chance of coming third. It's not Ben either, even though he's rocking a 37% chance of getting that second runner-up spot. Instead it's Liz, which yeah, I can see this. The model can see it too. It gives her a 42% chance of coming in third. This model has never believed so strongly in something before. Now fourth place. Kenzie apparently has a 16% chance of coming in fourth, while Ben has a 17% chance of coming in fourth. Either of them losing fire making would not rock.
Frank, you think they've been running the show for a bit, but now everybody's trying to come together as one to take down the king and queen. This is going to be my favorite blind side of the season.
That leaves Kenzie as our 5th placer, with the model giving her a 9% chance of coming in 5th. Which feels unlikely, but stranger things have happened. If the model gets 2 out of 5, I'll be happy. That's better than chance.
Ben can't help that he has anxiety attacks, but what I can do is be there for someone who needs someone.
And here's each ranking with each castaway and how much the model gave the castaway the probability of getting that ranking. Hopefully the table is better at explaining this than my voice is. Let's quickly close with a thought about why this is such a difficult task. There are 2 reasons. One is that we just don't have that much data to go off. You may think 45 seasons worth of Final Fives would be enough, but no. It's hardly anything. That's only 225 data points. In fact, I tried cutting out seasons I thought may be confusing the model, namely all seasons that didn't include a final 3. If you do that, the model just has no clue what to do. It can't draw any conclusions. It doesn't have enough data. If there's one thing the AI takeover won't be coming for, it's analysing data about Survivor, I'll tell you that much. But more importantly than that, and what we touched on to begin with, Survivor is an extremely human experience. We can try to crunch it down to numbers and big moves and statistics all we want. At the end of the day, that's not what wins the game. You don't get to Final Tribal Council and pull out your stat sheet to show why you're the most epic of all the gamers and the jury needs to vote for you. If we did, we wouldn't need a jury. You get to Final Tribal Council and you rely on the genuine human connections you've made throughout the game to win you the season. That's why Sandra can win a season without winning individual immunity. That's why Denise can win a season without winning tribal immunity. It's why Fabio can win a season even though he voted incorrectly 45% of the time. There's something about Survivor we just can't capture by machine. And personally, I think that's beautiful. I wouldn't have it any other way. I've been Henry Hickman Survivor, and I'll see you at the finale tomorrow.